The New York subway platform was a shifting wall of gray. 8:15 on a Tuesday. The air tasted of ozone and stale coffee. Feet hammered against the concrete, a rhythmic, relentless pulse that defined the morning commute. I stood near the yellow tactile strip, checking my watch, waiting for the train to scream into the station. Then, the crowd parted. It was not a physical shove, but a sudden clearing of space. She walked past me. Her arm brushed against my sleeve, a brief, sharp contact. For 5 seconds, the world collapsed. The screeching of the metal wheels against the tracks vanished. The shouting of the commuters died into nothing. I stood frozen, my focus locked on the way the fluorescent light caught her hair. She did not look back. She stepped into the car with the same steady, calm pace. The doors hissed shut, a heavy, mechanical finality. I stared at the empty space where she had been. My pulse hammered against my throat, erratic and fast. The train lurched forward, pulling the light away with it. I took a step toward the edge of the platform, my hand reaching out, then dropping. "Wait," I muttered to the closing doors. The train vanished into the tunnel, leaving me standing in the sudden, hollow return of the station noise. I did not even know her name. That night, the ceiling fan spun in a rhythmic, mocking blur. I stared at the shadows, my mind replaying the 5 seconds on the platform. The next morning, I was back at the same spot by 8:15. The air felt colder, the crowd more aggressive. I scanned every face, ignoring the annoyed glares of people I bumped into as I shifted my weight to see further down the platform. Minutes stretched into an hour. Nothing. My friend Mark leaned against the railing, his phone glow illuminating his skeptical expression. He shook his head, a sharp, dismissive motion. "You are chasing a ghost, Liam," he laughed, the sound cutting through the station's low hum. I did not look at him. My eyes were glued to the subway entrance, waiting for a specific rhythm in the crowd. I returned for 3 days straight. My feet ached, a dull throb that matched the pounding in my head. Hope was thinning, fraying like an old rope. Each train that arrived brought only strangers, faces that blurred into a sea of disappointment. Every closing door felt like a personal failure. The 4th day arrived with a biting chill. My feet felt heavy, anchored to the concrete by 3 days of fruitless waiting. The morning rush peaked, a violent surge of bodies that threatened to sweep me toward the tracks. I scanned the crowd, my vision blurring with fatigue. Then, I saw her. She moved with a calm, deliberate pace that stood in stark contrast to the frantic energy around her. She was a silhouette of stillness in a river of motion. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic, uneven rhythm that echoed in my ears. I took a step, but a commuter shoved past me, blocking my view. Panic flared. I pushed through the gap, my breath hitching as I caught sight of her again. She was closer now, oblivious to the chaos, her gaze fixed on the approaching train. My palms were slick with sweat. I knew this was the final chance. If she boarded this train, she would vanish into the city again, and I would be left with nothing but the memory of a ghost. I moved to the center of the platform, my legs stiff, my throat tight. I stepped directly into her path, forcing my body to hold its ground. The crowd surged around us, a river of gray shapes that seemed to ignore our sudden standstill. I stood directly in her path, my feet planted on the cold concrete. The air felt thin, vibrating with the screech of metal on metal from a train pulling into the adjacent track. I looked at her, and the words I had rehearsed for days dissolved into nothing. My throat tightened, a physical knot that made breathing a conscious effort. I opened my mouth, but only a dry rasp emerged. I tried again, forcing the sound out against the roar of the station. "Hi," I said, my voice cracking slightly. She stopped, her momentum halting instantly. She tilted her head, her gaze steady and unblinking. I felt the heat rise in my face, the weight of my own desperation pressing down on me. I added, "I think I saw you here before." A small, knowing smile played on her lips, softening the sharp edges of the moment. Or Maybe, she replied, her voice calm and clear. You just wanted to say hi. The tension in my chest snapped like a taut wire. I let out a breath I had been holding for 4 days. We both laughed, the sound cutting through the subway noise with startling clarity. We turned away from the tracks and walked toward the exit. We stepped out of the station and into the quiet of a nearby cafe. The city outside the window seemed to slow down, the frantic pace of New York replaced by the steady rhythm of our conversation. She sat across from me, stirring her coffee. I am Sophie, she said. I leaned back, feeling the weight of the last few days lift from my shoulders. I am Liam, and I am glad I did not miss this again. We talked for hours. The city lights flickered to life, casting long shadows. She asked, "What if you had not come back?" I looked at the glass. Then I would have missed something important, I answered. Sometimes, one chance is all it takes to shift the trajectory of a life. One moment, one decision, and everything changes.